It started with her smell, and I swear I'm not trying to sound poetic or sentimental. It's just that when you've been waking up next to the same person for over a decade, you notice these things. Jessica always had this faint lavender and cotton scent when she slid into bed after her evening shower, and by morning, there was a sleepy mix of shampoo and that trace of warmth she left behind on the pillow. But that morning, it was different. I remember waking up half-conscious and noticing it wasn't the usual blend. It was something stronger, something synthetic, cologne, maybe, but not mine. And not hers either. I didn't say anything right away. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to her rustle around, humming as she went through her usual routine, not even glancing in my direction. That was the first time I had a real thought that something was wrong. Not just off, wrong. Still, I got up like normal, took a shower, went downstairs, made breakfast, and sat at the table, pretending like I wasn't trying to figure out why my wife suddenly smelled like another man. "You're up early," she said, buttering her toast like we weren't in the middle of a silent crisis only I knew about. "Got a lot going on at work?" "Yeah." I lied, keeping my eyes on the eggs, watching the yolk slowly harden because I'd waited too long to eat. "You?" Jessica didn't answer right away. She poured her coffee, took a sip, then sat across from me like she was trying to decide whether to include me in whatever was going on inside her head. "Today's that workshop," she finally said. "The team-building thing I told you about." I nodded, still chewing, still pretending like I hadn't noticed how quickly she'd turned away from me in bed last night. "Where's it at again?" She stirred her coffee longer than she needed to before answering. "Downtown. At the Park Terrace Hotel." Now, I'm not a genius, but I'm not an idiot either. That hotel? That name? That's when it hit me. 2 weeks ago, I'd seen a receipt tucked inside one of her coat pockets while helping her bring laundry upstairs. It was for the same hotel, same name, same day of the week, but she hadn't mentioned a damn thing about it back then. I assumed she'd been there for a client meeting or a vendor event. Her marketing job often involved late-night events, boring panels, cocktails, and forced smiles. But now she was giving me the heads up like it was her first time going. That didn't sit right. I let it go, or at least I pretended to. But my brain had already started working overtime. I took the day off work, told my team there was a plumbing issue at home. Honestly, I just needed space to think, to decide if I was overreacting or if this gut feeling was trying to tell me something I didn't want to know. Around 10, I found myself sitting in my car across from the park terrace, pretending to scroll through emails, my eyes fixed on the entrance. It was a cloudy day, drizzling slightly, and I remember watching all these people go in and out with their umbrellas and lanyards and coffee cups, but not her. No Jessica. Not for an hour. Then finally, around 11:15, she walked in, not with a group, not with coworkers, but with one man. Tall, beard, probably mid-30s, in that annoying untucked shirt and blazer combo that screams casual confidence and reeks of bullshit. They weren't holding hands, but they didn't need to. I watched her lean into him slightly as they walked, smiling in that way she hadn't smiled at me in months. He said something that made her laugh, and she reached up and fixed something on his collar like they were in a rom-com montage, and I was the audience left in the dark. I didn't go in. I just sat there. I didn't even take a picture or a video. I just stared at the spot where they disappeared and realized I had no idea who the hell I was married to anymore. When you see it in real time, when you physically see your wife showing affection to someone else, there's this strange vacuum that opens in your chest. It doesn't feel like heartbreak. Not yet. It's more like this dead, hollow calm. You stop feeling anything at all, which is almost worse than rage or sadness. Later that night, she came home at the usual time, around 7. Her makeup was a little faded, her perfume a little too strong, and she tossed her bag on the couch like nothing had happened. "That workshop was a disaster," she said, laughing. "Total waste of time. But we got out early. How was your day?" I just smiled, stood there with my beer, and nodded like a fool. "Uneventful," I said. "Just another quiet day." She walked past me, kissed my cheek without looking at me, and disappeared into the bedroom. And just like that, the lie continued. At least on her end. But for me, that day was the start. The beginning of something I couldn't ignore anymore. The next morning I got up before her and sat in the kitchen just staring at nothing for a good half hour. The smell of coffee helped me move, not because I wanted to do anything, but because I needed to feel like I wasn't frozen in place. I turned on the machine, stood by the counter, and waited as it dripped slowly into the carafe. Jessica came in wearing one of those oversized shirts she always took from my side of the closet. She yawned, walked straight past me, and reached for her mug like we were still a functioning couple, like I hadn't seen her disappear into a hotel lobby with someone else less than 24 hours ago. I handed her the milk without a word, and she smiled like she appreciated the gesture, then sat down across from me and started going through her phone. I stared at her, taking in every detail of her face, wondering how she could act like nothing was wrong, how she could sit there pretending our lives hadn't shifted dramatically in a single day. She glanced up and caught me watching her. "You okay?" she asked casually, like she had any right to wonder. I nodded, then said something just to say it. "Did you meet anyone interesting at the workshop yesterday?" Her eyes didn't move, but her fingers paused mid-scroll. "Not really," she said. "Boring crowd. Same old team-building nonsense." I knew she was lying, and she knew I was fishing, but we kept up the game anyway. I didn't push her, not yet. I wasn't done watching. I needed more. One hotel entrance wasn't enough. I wanted something that would destroy every excuse she might throw at me later. So I waited. That weekend she told me she had to meet a client for brunch. I nodded and told her to enjoy herself. She dressed a little too carefully, spritzed on a perfume I hadn't smelled in months, and left in a hurry, almost like she was late to something she didn't want to miss. I waited 20 minutes before grabbing my jacket and keys and heading out. I wasn't even sure where she was going, but I knew her habits. She liked that little cafe on Edison Street, the one with the tiny tables and the fake flowers on the wall. She claimed it had the best avocado toast in the city, which I never understood. I parked across the street and waited. It didn't take long. She was already there, sitting outside under the awning. And he was with her. Same guy, same smug look. Only this time he leaned across the table and brushed something off her cheek like it was his place to do that. She didn't flinch. She laughed and touched his wrist. That was enough for me. I didn't need to see more. I drove away before my hands started shaking too hard to grip the wheel. When she got home that afternoon, she came through the door carrying a shopping bag. "I stopped by that boutique on Carlton. Thought I'd grab a dress for the dinner next weekend," she said, like she hadn't just spent the last 2 hours flirting with another man in broad daylight. I forced a smile and nodded. "Hope you found something nice. I think you'll like it," she said, walking past me toward the bedroom. I didn't respond. I was already planning what I'd do next. The following Monday, I left work a little early and stopped by a print shop. I had taken a few discreet photos through my car window during that brunch, and now they were in my hands, printed on glossy paper, perfectly clear. I looked at them in the car for a long time before putting them away. I didn't want to keep them, but I needed them for what came next. That night after dinner, we were sitting on the couch watching a show neither of us really cared about. Jessica was scrolling through her phone again, barely pretending to pay attention. I reached over and turned off the TV. She looked at me, annoyed. "What's up?" she asked. "I saw you," I said. "On Saturday. At the cafe. With him." She didn't say anything at first. Her mouth opened slightly, but nothing came out. Then she looked down at her hands like they held the answer to some question she didn't want to hear. "You followed me?" she asked. "No," I replied calmly. "I guess where you'd be." I was right. She put her phone down slowly, like she was handling something fragile. "It's not what you think," she said. I shook my head. "Don't say that. Just don't insult me like that." She leaned back, crossed her arms, and stared at the ceiling. "It was just brunch." I saw him touch her face. She didn't respond. I stood up and walked over to the table where I had left the envelope. I placed it in front of her without a word. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. "I want the truth," I said. "All of it." She looked up at me then, not with fear or guilt, but with frustration. "Fine," she said, her voice flat. "It's been going on for a few months. We met at a seminar. It was supposed to be nothing, but we started talking more. And then it wasn't nothing." I didn't interrupt. I just let her keep going. "We've only been together a few times. I don't even know if I want him. I feel like I've been disappearing in this house. In this life." "You're not disappearing," I said quietly. "You're just running away." Jessica didn't argue. She picked up the envelope, opened it, looked at the photos, then set them down again. Her hands were shaking. "Not a lot, just enough for me to notice." "I don't want a divorce," she said. I laughed, but there wasn't any humor in it. "You don't want a divorce, but you're already acting like you're single." She didn't have an answer to that. Neither of us said anything else for a long time. The silence in the room felt like a third person sitting between us, watching us collapse in real time. I didn't say a word to her for the next 2 days. We shared the same roof, the same bed, the same coffee machine in the kitchen, but nothing else. She moved around like a guest, trying to avoid my eyes, my footsteps, my breath. I went to work like normal, came home like normal, cooked dinner like normal, but none of it was normal anymore. The air between us was thick with things neither of us wanted to say out loud. She tried once or twice to start small conversations, weather, grocery list, bills, but I either answered with a nod or nothing at all. I needed space in my head to figure out what came next, and I wasn't about to share that space with the woman who decided someone else's hands were worth more than mine. On the third day, she finally snapped. "This is ridiculous," she said, standing in the kitchen doorway, arms folded across her chest. "You can't just ignore me forever." "I can ignore you for as long as I feel like," I replied without even turning around. I kept washing the dishes, slowly, methodically, because it gave my hands something to do while my head tried to stay calm. "Steve, come on," she said, stepping closer. "You wanted the truth. I gave it to you. What else do you want from me?" I dried my hands and turned to face her. "You gave me the truth after I caught you. Not before. Not when it would have mattered. Not when you still had a choice." She didn't flinch, but she didn't look strong either. Her eyes darted to the floor like she couldn't bear to meet mine for more than a second. "I'm trying to fix this," she said, softer now. "I'm still here." "That's not enough," I said. "You being physically here doesn't fix anything. You don't get points for not walking out the door." Her face tightened, and I could see she was biting her tongue. She wanted to say something else, something defensive, maybe even something cruel, but she stopped herself. "I made a mistake," she said finally, "and I hate myself for it." "You didn't make a mistake," I said calmly. "You made a decision. A mistake is something that happens once, something you regret immediately. You made a series of choices over weeks, maybe months, and you made each one knowing what it meant." She didn't argue. I walked past her, out of the kitchen, and into the living room. I sat down on the couch and stared at the blank television screen, not because I wanted to watch anything, but because I needed something to look at that wasn't her. She stood in the doorway for a few minutes before sitting down at the other end of the couch. "I don't even know what I want anymore," she said, almost to herself. "You should have figured that out before you climbed into someone else's bed." "He made me feel seen," she said, the words tumbling out fast. "Like I mattered. Like someone actually paid attention to what I said, to how I felt. I know that sounds selfish, but..." "No," I cut her off. "That sounds like bullshit. If you were unhappy, you should have talked to me. You should have tried. But you didn't want to fix anything. You wanted an escape. And you found it between someone else's sheets." "I didn't sleep with him," she said quickly. I turned to her slowly. "Does that make it better?" She didn't answer. "That brunch, that hotel lobby, the way you looked at him. It doesn't matter what happened physically. You left this marriage the moment you started hiding things. The rest is just logistics." She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her shirt. I was confused. "No, you weren't. You were selfish. And now you want me to pick up the pieces and pretend this is still a home." She stood up, paced for a moment, then turned to face me again. "So what? You want me to leave? Is that it?" "I don't want anything from you right now. Not your explanations, not your apologies, not your plans. I want time to think. Alone." She stared at me like she was waiting for something else, maybe a crack in my voice, a softening of tone, anything that gave her hope. But I gave her nothing. She walked away without another word, and the silence she left behind felt heavier than anything she could have said. The next morning, I waited until she left for work. Then I opened my laptop and started looking into lawyers. I wasn't sure if I was ready for that step, but I wanted the option. I wanted control back. I made a list of everything we owned together: bank accounts, the house, the car, the joint credit card we always forgot to pay off on time. I made another list of what was mine, what I wouldn't let her touch if it came to it. My dad's watch, the savings account I started in college, the old Polaroids in the drawer beside my bed that I hadn't looked at in years, but suddenly felt the need to protect. I wasn't sure why. That night, we ate dinner in silence again. I made spaghetti. She washed the dishes. We didn't talk about what happened the night before, and we didn't touch. It was like we were two strangers trapped in a simulation of a marriage, performing tasks without purpose, just to keep the walls from falling down completely. When she went to bed, I stayed in the living room. I scrolled through my phone, stared at nothing, then finally opened a blank note and typed, "I don't think I love her anymore." I stared at that sentence for a long time. I didn't delete it. The morning I decided to do something about it, she was already gone. Her car was missing from the driveway, and she hadn't left a note or a message. I didn't care where she went. I just needed the space. I pulled out everything from the bottom drawer of my desk where I kept old files, warranties, receipts, and started building a folder. I wasn't planning to use it immediately, but I wanted to be ready. I printed the pictures I had taken again, this time smaller, easier to carry. I printed screenshots of our shared calendar where she'd marked team meetings that didn't match anything she ever mentioned later. I made copies of the hotel receipt I'd found and highlighted the date. I even wrote a simple summary of everything I'd observed, not for court or for drama, but for myself, to remind me I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't imagined any of this, that it wasn't about paranoia. It was about facts. By early afternoon, I had a plan. I texted her and told her I'd made dinner reservations for us. I said it had been a tense week and we needed to talk like adults. She answered half an hour later with a short message. "Okay. What time?" That was all. No smiley face, no heart, no sarcasm. Just a flat response. That's how far gone we were. Still, she came home early. She changed clothes and did her makeup, but not the way she used to for me. She picked a dress she hadn't worn in months, one I always liked, but she hadn't bothered with for over a year, and I realized she was trying, in her own way, to manage the damage. We drove in silence. I picked a quiet restaurant, a little Italian place we used to go to before things got cold between us. I didn't want distractions. I didn't want noise. We sat at a corner table by the window, ordered drinks, and I told the waiter we'd need time before deciding on food. Jessica sat with her hands in her lap, playing with a ring that wasn't her wedding band. She'd stopped wearing that a while ago. I had noticed, but I hadn't said anything. Now I wanted to. "When did you stop wearing your ring?" I asked. She looked up slowly. "A couple of months ago." "Why?" She exhaled and looked around like she needed a break from my face. "I don't know. I felt like I was pretending when I wore it." "Pretending what?" "That everything was okay. That we were still who we used to be." I nodded. "And were you pretending with him too?" Jessica flinched, but she didn't deny it. "No. That felt different." "Because it was secret?" "No. Because it wasn't full of all the weight. All the history. It was simple." "It was stupid," I said. She nodded. "Maybe. But I wasn't looking for anything deep. I just wanted to feel something that didn't come with guilt or arguments." "You could have told me you were unhappy." "I did. You just didn't hear me." I stared at her, wondering how many conversations I had missed because I assumed we were fine. I thought we were just tired, just busy, just something temporary. I didn't think she'd go look for someone else to fix what was wrong. "I didn't cheat to hurt you," she said. "But you did." "I know." We were quiet for a long time. The waiter came back twice before we finally ordered. We didn't touch the breadsticks. When the food arrived, we ate like strangers. No shared bites, no comments about how it tasted. Just two people chewing food because it was expected. After dinner, we walked back to the car, still not speaking. I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to sit on that couch again, sleep in that bed again, or pretend I didn't have a fire building inside me every time I saw her. So I drove to his place. She didn't realize where we were going until we turned down the narrow street near the park where the apartments were. Then she sat up straighter, her eyes scanning the road. "Steve, what are you doing?" "I just want to see something." "What?" "I want to see if he's worth all this." She looked panicked. "Please don't do this." I parked across the street and pointed to the third-floor balcony. "That's his, right?" Jessica didn't answer. I turned off the engine. "Tell me the truth now. Did you ever go up there?" She swallowed hard. "Once." I looked at her. "And we just talked. You expect me to believe that?" She didn't respond. I opened the glove compartment and pulled out the folder. I tossed it into her lap. "You want to stay married? Then start treating me like someone who deserves honesty. You want to keep lying, keep protecting him, keep hiding things, then let's be done with this right now." Jessica opened the folder, flipped through the pages, then stopped. "You've been tracking me." "No. I've been paying attention. Something you should have tried." She closed the folder and set it on the dashboard. "So what now?" she asked. "You tell me. Do you want this marriage, or do you want to keep chasing something that doesn't even exist outside your boredom?" She stared straight ahead, the balcony still in view. "I don't know," she said. "That's not good enough." She nodded slowly. Then maybe we're already done. I started the car, turned around, and drove home. Neither of us spoke the entire way. 2 days passed without a word between us. No texts, no notes, no attempts to fix anything. I slept on the couch. She didn't ask me to come back to the bedroom, and I didn't pretend I wanted to. We moved around each other like tenants who happened to share a kitchen. I didn't want to speak until I had something worth saying. Not just to punish her, but because I was trying to figure out what the hell I actually wanted. Did I want revenge? Did I want closure? Did I even want her to leave? I didn't know. I only knew I couldn't live in that limbo for much longer. Every time I saw her put on makeup, I wondered who she was thinking about. Every time she picked up her phone and smiled at it, I wondered if it was him. That kind of thinking eats at you. It turns regular moments into interrogation sessions inside your own head. On Friday night, I told her to sit down. She looked tired when I said it, like she already knew what was coming. She sat at the kitchen table, the same place we used to eat Sunday pancakes, the same place we used to laugh about the dumbest things. I don't want to keep dragging this out, I said. It's not good for either of us. Jessica nodded. I agree. So we need to make a decision. Not one we'll review in a week. Not a break. A decision. She stared at the table. You've already made yours, haven't you? No. But I've made up my mind that this waiting game is over. Either we work on this, fully, or we call it. She didn't answer right away. I waited, letting the silence stretch. I wasn't going to fill it for her. I don't think I can love you the way I used to, she said finally. Not after all this. That's honest. I didn't mean to say it like that. No, it's better you said it like that. At least now we're not pretending. She looked up. And you? I think I stopped trusting you the second I saw you touch his arm. That moment hasn't left my head. I didn't sleep with him. I believe you. But you were going to. She looked down again, silent. So what's the point of staying married? I asked. What are we holding on to? This house? The memories? Or just the fear of starting over? I don't know, she said, her voice barely audible. Maybe all of it. Then we're not holding on to each other. We're holding on to furniture and old photos. She nodded. I've started talking to a lawyer, I continued. Nothing official yet, just getting a sense of things. If we go that route, I want it clean. No drama, no fighting. I don't want to fight either, she said. But I don't want to hate each other, Steve. Then we need to stop pretending there's something left here. That's how people end up hating each other. By clinging to something broken and hoping it magically fixes itself. She looked away, wiped at her eyes. So that's it. No, that's the truth. What we do with it is still our choice. Jessica stood up, walked to the sink, and stared out the window. She didn't say anything for almost a full minute. I'll move out next week, she said. I'll stay at my sister's place for a while. I'm not kicking you out. I know, but I need to go. Okay. She turned to me. Are you going to tell your parents? I'll tell everyone who matters. I'm not going to make a spectacle out of it. I don't want to be the villain in their eyes. Then maybe you should have thought of that when you gave someone else your attention instead of fixing what was here. She nodded, no defense left in her. That night, I packed up some of my stuff and moved into the guest room. Not because I was trying to make a statement, but because I didn't want to sleep in the same bed one more night knowing she'd already emotionally left it. I needed to feel like I had my own space again, even if it was a small room with a creaky mattress. I didn't sleep much. I stared at the ceiling for most of the night, replaying the last few weeks, trying to trace back where things really started to fall apart. I wondered if it was something I missed a year ago, or 5. Maybe it wasn't one thing. Maybe it was 100 little things that we both ignored. The next morning, she packed a few bags and left without drama. No hugs. No long, drawn-out speeches. Just a quiet goodbye, the way you leave a house you used to like but don't belong in anymore. I watched her car pull out of the driveway and disappear down the street. Then I sat down on the couch and stayed there for hours. The silence didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt clean, like I could finally think without having to guess what she was feeling or hiding or wishing was different. The house was quiet after she left, and for the first time in weeks, it didn't feel like I had to tiptoe around my own furniture. I walked from room to room, not looking for anything in particular, just getting used to the way things sounded without her presence. No keys dropping into the bowl by the door. No kettle whistling from the stove. No perfume in the bathroom or charger plugged into the outlet by the bed. The closet was still half full, but it looked like someone had started moving out and then changed their mind halfway. I didn't touch any of it. I went to the kitchen, made a sandwich, ate it over the sink, and then opened my laptop. I didn't check the news or my work email. I opened a blank document and wrote down everything I could remember from the past month. Not to publish it or share it or turn it into some emotional letter, but to get it out of my head. I needed to write it down like facts in a report. The dates, the lies, the shifts in her tone, the way I felt each time I saw the truth more clearly. I wrote until my hands were tired. Then I saved it and didn't look at it again. 2 days later, she texted me, "Can we talk?" I stared at the message for a while. Then I replied. When? She asked if she could come by that evening. I told her 6. She arrived exactly on time, like she always did when she was nervous. I let her in. She looked different, like she hadn't slept much, but also like she had finally stopped pretending to be okay. She didn't sit right away. She stood in the hallway, holding her bag like she didn't know what to do with her hands. "I'm not here to fix anything," she said. "I just wanted to say some things. You don't have to respond." I nodded. "Go ahead." She looked at me, and for the first time, she looked genuinely unsure of herself. Not defensive, not guilty, just unsure. "I know what I did. I know how it made you feel. And I know I don't get to undo it just because I regret it." I didn't interrupt. I felt like I was slowly disappearing into this routine I didn't recognize anymore. I kept telling myself it was just stress or boredom, but the truth is, I was lonely. Not because of you, but because I stopped trying. And instead of fixing that, I looked for a shortcut. I liked the attention. I liked being wanted. And then I convinced myself I deserved it. That it was harmless. That I wasn't really hurting anyone because I wasn't crossing certain lines. But it was never harmless. She paused. I let her keep going. "I made you question yourself. I made you wonder if you were crazy. And I'll carry that with me whether we stay married or not." I stayed quiet. I wasn't ready to forgive her, but I appreciated that she wasn't trying to rewrite the past. I don't expect us to go back to how things were. I don't even know if we should. But I wanted you to know that I've ended it. Completely. I told him I wasn't going to be in touch anymore. I deleted everything. I even told my sister. I told her everything so someone else knows how badly I screwed this up. I folded my arms. "So what are you asking for?" "Nothing," she said. "I'm not here to ask for another chance. I'm here to tell you I'm taking responsibility. I'll give you space. I'll give you whatever you need. If that means divorce, I'll sign the papers. If it means waiting, I'll wait. But I'm not going to run from this. Not anymore." She finally sat down. The tension in her shoulders dropped slightly. "I think I stopped loving you when I started hiding from you," she said. "And I think I hated myself for that. I still do." I leaned forward. "I'm not going to rush this. I'm not going to make a decision today. I've spent the last few weeks living in a fog, trying to figure out if this was something I could ever move past. Some days I think maybe I can. Other days I think I'd be stupid to try. But I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen. And I'm not going to lie to myself just to avoid being alone." She nodded. "I get it. I still don't trust you," I said. "That's the part that doesn't heal easily." "I know. But I appreciate you telling the truth now, even if it's late." She stood up slowly. "I'll let you be." I walked her to the door. She turned before stepping outside. "If you ever want to talk again, I'll be around. I won't push. I won't expect anything." I didn't answer. I just closed the door behind her. The next week, I met with the lawyer again. We went over the options, discussed division of assets, and what the process would look like. I told him I wasn't filing yet. I wasn't sure I would, but I needed to be ready. 3 weeks later, I started sleeping better. I stopped checking her social media. I deleted the photos from my phone. I cleaned out the guest room and turned it into a workspace. I met some friends for dinner. I laughed for the first time in a while. I wasn't healed. I wasn't over it. But I wasn't stuck anymore. Whether we ended up divorced or found a way back didn't feel like the urgent part. What mattered was that I knew I'd survived it. I saw it clearly, faced it head on, and refused to let it break me. And that was enough for now.